Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James, joined once again by my co-host Cody. Cody, how are you on this fine Sunday afternoon?
I'm fantastic. Had a good church session this morning. I'm relaxing comfortably in my new gaming chair. What is there not to be excited about? Yeah, big shout out to my brother-in-law and my sister for getting me this nice gaming chair. It's real comfy, not gonna lie.
It looks pretty extravagant, man. Is that a massaging chair too?
I wish. Oh, I just hire somebody to stand back here and massage. How are you doing, James? How are you?
Man, I'm doing good.
You had breakfast this morning.
Yeah, nice full belly going on. Some corn fritters and sausage and eggs. Yeah.
Ooh, and then you get dinner
Mother-in-law's
tonight?
Mother-in-law's a real good cook, man. I'm blessed.
All right, well,
no doubt.
You gotta hook me up sometime. You know what I'm saying?
I'll invite you to the next family breakfast.
There we go.
There it is. You gotta come to the next one.
Oh,
Speaking of special events.
Special
events. Today, I don't know if you knew this. I think you knew this. You knew this because we talked before we recorded. But for the rest of you who didn't know this,
I knew it.
Today,
I was on Facebook. I said something.
Okay. A very special friend of the podcast, Josh Perry. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Josh.
Should we sing for him? I'll sing for him.
Happy birthday.
I'll sing. Should we?
Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, he's going the whole way.
Happy birthday, dear Josh Perry.
Joshua.
Happy birthday to you.
And many more.
Listen, quick.
Big ally of the podcast.
Big ally.
Josh is always liking episodes, always sharing episodes, always listening, and we really appreciate his support. So
yeah, listen, if you guys want us to sing happy birthday for you on your birthday, send us your birthday on social media. I will post to our social media stories singing you happy birthday if you tell me what your birthday is. I'll make it happen.
Yeah.
I'll make it happen. We'll figure it out. But anyways, so Josh, have a good day.
Yeah, and also wanted to give a shout out to a friend of the podcast, Scott Reffner. Scott's always sharing our episodes every week on Facebook, and greatly appreciate that. Any of you decide to do that don't normally, you'll also get a shout out on the show, because that's just kind of the guys we are. We appreciate those who support us.
Absolutely.
So we'll give you a free shout out anytime you do that.
Yeah.
Also, 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts do give you shout outs on the show. Just throwing that out there. We're due for another one pretty soon.
We're getting there. But now it's time for that was like Steelers by the Lake fan news, kind of. Now it's time for Steelers news, which this whole episode is going to cover a lot of that Steelers news, and we'll break it down as much as we can for you, and how we feel about it, what we think about it, what we think professionally about it, and how we think personally about it. And I mean, you guys know by now, James and I are very, we're very much. I'm trying to think. We're opinionated people. We have an opinion. Yeah. We're kind of setting it a little bit. We're both also somewhat open-minded, but we may have. I'm not sure how we're gonna feel about this moving forward, like today's topics. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, let's see how it goes. First off, first news, big news.
Yeah. First news.
It's bigger news because of outside things, but it's still big news.
Yeah, so it's a big addition for the Pittsburgh Steelers coaching staff. One Brian Flores, most recently the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, has joined the Pittsburgh Steelers coaching staff as a senior defensive assistant and linebackers coach, which basically means they just made something up and said, hey, you're a really good coach. Why don't you just come hang out with us? Which we're all on board for. Obviously, there's a lot of drama surrounding his name right now. But as far as we can tell, it's kind of really, it's not Brian Flores' fault for calling the NFL out on this.
Nope.
Let's be real. The Steelers handed the NFL a silver platter and said, if you follow these guidelines that we use here when hiring coaching personnel, if you follow these, you can keep yourselves from getting accused of racism, and you can get yourself a good, diverse coaching staff and front office and those sort of things. And the NFL said, that's a great plan.
If it's done correctly and properly, that's what it should do. Because let's be clear about the the elephant in the room is the fact that there's some people that have a whatever feeling about that white coaches are better in the NFL, and that's not always true. There are more of them. I will say that. I understand that completely. A lot more. But when you have someone, the whole point of it is to give everyone an equal opportunity. That's the equal opportunity is what is over top of that entire scheme. And when you have someone like Bill Belichick, who interviews 3 people and gets through the first 2 interviews, or maybe it was only even 1, I can't remember exactly now. And then he interviewed one Brian, a white Caucasian Brian, and then he interviews has a scheduled interview with Brian Flores, who is an African-American, he's an African-American. And you don't even wait to have that second interview to text the first Brian, or mean to text the first Brian, say congrats on the job, but you send it to the other Brian?
To be fair, it wasn't Belichick doing the interviewing. Both of these Bryans were former assistants of his. They were interviewing for the New York Giants job. So Brian Daboll got the job. Brian Flores was texting Bill Belichick, and Bill Belichick said, well, from what I understand, you already have the job. And he thought it was Brian Daboll, not Brian Flores, that he was texting.
Yeah.
And as Cody said, the elephant in the room here is that for years now, we've seen teams go through this whole process. And then at the end, after interviewing the candidates that they seem to actually be interested in, then they bring in a couple minority coaches that they're not interested in just to complete their quota of, okay, I interviewed 2 minority candidates, whatever. And they don't take it serious.
No, not at all.
Pittsburgh didn't go into their most recent head coach search looking to find a head coach outside of Pittsburgh. They thought they had their guy already in Pittsburgh. They did their due process. They interviewed some minority candidates, and they were blown away by Mike Tomlin. And because of how well he interviewed and his football knowledge and his football IQ and how he's a good leader of men, they said, we can't go any other way. This is the best candidate, and he's better than the guys that we have in-house that we were confident were the best guys. So if you go into it and you already have your mind made up and you don't have an open mind on actually taking the interview seriously, that's where you run into this problem. And that's what I feel is like what happened here. And I feel like Flores really has a reason to be upset, because it seems very, very clear that a large portion of the NFL teams have been doing this for years now. And I'm not saying everybody in the NFL is doing it. That's not the case. Not everyone's got this mindset of thinking that maybe a black head coach can't handle the job. That's not the way Cody and I think. I'll tell you that right now. And what really is the big thing here is Brian Flores, as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, was the first head coach they've had in 20 years to lead them to back-to-back winning seasons. Yep. You can't tell me he wasn't a good coach.
And he was fired.
You can't.
And there were white coaches who had worse records than him during the same time span that are still coaching their head coaching jobs today.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes a problem, is because you have to ask yourself, why are you firing these people? And here's the other thing. Brian Flores was offered money to lose games. And apparently so was Hugh Jackson when he was in Cleveland. Yep. And you know what? I bet that was so they could fire them on they'd have more grounds to fire them on the outside. Yeah. It would look better for them.
It's easier to justify it in their mind when you've got a horrible losing record. So Brian Flores went out and won 7 straight at the end of the year, got the Dolphins to a winning record, and almost got them in the playoffs.
Sad.
But you know what? One thing's for sure. You don't remain an assistant coach for Bill Belichick for 10 years unless you've got some talent. That dude does not keep people in his circle unless you've got skill. And he was an assistant defensive coach there for 10 plus years. He played the linebacker position himself. And he had a lot of really good linebackers while he was there in New England. Now, whether you like the Patriots or not, I don't like them at all. But one thing's for sure, they've had some really good coaching in place for a long time. And Brian Flores was part of that for a long time. So this is a really, really high quality hire for Pittsburgh. And then the other nice thing about this is if he stays with Pittsburgh for 2 seasons, and let's say 2 seasons from now, somebody says, hey, I want that head coach that had 2 winning seasons back to back in Miami as my head coach. And somebody hires him. We get 2 third-round compensatory picks if that happens. It is win-win for Pittsburgh.
Oh, I'll take that all day, every day.
It's a really smart defensive mind, a guy that specializes in linebackers. And let's be honest, our off-ball linebackers left a lot to be desired last year. And it probably didn't help that the middle linebacker coach, Jerry Olszewski, went through a horrible loss. His wife died last year. Yep. I'm sure he wasn't 100% in it mentally. You can't be when you go through a tragedy like that. It's just not possible. So bringing in another guy who can help him out, I think is only something that can help the Steelers defense overall and specifically those off-ball or middle linebackers in the Pittsburgh Steelers scheme. So I'm ecstatic. I think it's a fantastic hire. I don't care that there's a pending lawsuit.
Nope.
It's not against Pittsburgh. It has absolutely nothing to do with Pittsburgh.
And it's not against him. And it's not against him.
No, it's not. It's not.
If it was against him, you'd kind of be like, oh, that was weird to hire somebody who's facing a lawsuit right now. But no, it wasn't. And that's the same thing I'm saying honestly, to anyone who wants us to sign Deshaun Watson. It's the same thing. Pittsburgh will never sign somebody to any position at any level of player, coach, training staff, whatever, if they're facing a lawsuit. They're going to let all that stuff play out. I'm just sorry. To go off topic there a little bit, I've seen people talk about that a lot on social media recently. We're not signing Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Nope.
For all we know, Deshaun Watson's going to end up in jail.
If any of those allegations are true or can be proven true or whatever else, yeah.
Yeah. If even like one of them is true, he's going to jail. So, yeah, like, no thanks. We'll move on. I'd rather have, Mason
Mitch
Rudolph,
Trubisky.
who has a clean legal record.
Mitch Trubisky.
Mitch Trubisky. There's any number of free agents that don't really excite me that I would rather have than a guy that's got those accusations right now. We just don't want that drama in Pittsburgh.
Now, if he gets cleared, I'd take him. A lot of people will make the argument Ben had allegations.
He absolutely had allegations. It was a lot less of them.
That's true. These ones all came out at once, which is crazy. Anyways,
this is like 30 or 40 of them.
But back to Brian Flores for a little bit, real quick, James, because I didn't talk about this before the show. What are the 3 top positions that we need upgrades or better play from on the defensive side of the ball?
On the defensive side of the ball?
I'm saying 3 because I know the first 2 you'd say. I need you to get to the third one for me so I can make my point.
Middle linebacker, number 1.
Okay.
Cornerback, number 2.
Yep.
And then defensive lineman not named Cameron Hayward, number 3.
That's not where I wanted you to go, but that's fine.
You probably wanted me to go safety, I
wanted you to go safety. I thought you might, but that's fine.
Well,
that's fine.
Honestly, I think Terrell Edmonds played better than the backup defensive lineman did, that's why I didn't go there. That would have been number 4. That would have been number 4.
So out of the top 4 needs on our defensive side, Brian Flores has specific coaching in 2 of them. He was a safeties coach for New England between 2012 and 2015, and he was a linebackers coach from 2016 to 2018.
And realistically, there's going to be some transition in that safety room, whether or not you think it was the biggest area of weakness last year. If Terrell Edmonds is not brought back, there's going to be a new starting safety. Even regardless of whether he's brought back or not, there's likely to be some new faces in the safety room. Because are you going to continue with Trey Norwood as a hybrid player, or are you going to probably move him to nickel corner? I think they're probably going to move him to nickel corner, personally.
I think you have to at this point.
Yeah, he showed good coverage skills. Do you really want to waste him as a backup safety that only plays a couple snaps a game, or get him out there on the field more often? I think he's likely to get out there on the field more often this upcoming season, which you need a pure backup safety, because the other guy last year would have been Miles Killebrew. He's like a linebacker safety hybrid and more of a special teams guy than he is a defensive guy anyway. So I really do feel like there's going to be someone brought in and maybe even drafted at that position. So another guy that can coach that area, fantastic. I'm in.
Yeah. I love it. I don't have much more to say about Flores other than the fact that I believe it was a good hire, and I believe that the lawsuit and everything going on, I will say is morally justifiable and completely understandable. And I side with him on the matter.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I can even say that if you look at it just from a coaching perspective, if you put the legal stuff aside, if you don't want to get involved in that, I understand. From the coaching aspect alone, Brian Flores is an excellent coach, and that makes him an excellent hire.
He's been a part of, I believe, 4 winning Super Bowl teams with New England. 4 of them.
Yeah.
That's great.
Tough to argue with, man.
That's great. Even if he himself obviously wasn't a head coach or anything, but the fact that he's been a part of a winning team, a winning environment, that is massively beneficial to Pittsburgh as a whole right now. As we get further away from our last Super Bowl victory team, you're going to have less and less people or players or staff who have been in those situations to help other people through that when we start to succeed again. Because let's be real, we're going to at some point. It might not be this year.
Tomlin might be the only one left. Let's be real. I don't think any of the position coaches or anything were around back then.
Nope.
Definitely not the coordinators. The coordinators are brand new. I mean, it may be not even Jerry Olszewski. He hasn't been on the team long enough.
Nope.
I don't think there's anyone left coaching staff wise that's been around. Probably just like some medical staff. That's about it. You know?
Like the head athletic trainer or whoever that's been there for 30 years.
Yeah, those kind of guys. They've been around. Garrett Guimont, he was probably there for that. But yeah, speaking of like front office type people, there were a couple interviews with Kevin Colbert this week, the Steelers' current general manager, but the pending soon to be retired general manager, as we all understand. He was asked multiple things during this interview. One about the quarterback situation and what would happen if the season started today. And his answer was pretty straightforward. He stated that if the season were to start today, that Mason Rudolph would be the starting quarterback and that they do have faith in him, but also that they will be bringing in 2 more quarterbacks. None of this to me is breaking news.
No, not at all.
All he said is that Mason Rudolph has a winning record as a starting quarterback, which he does. It's 5-4-1. It's not amazing, but it is a winning record. He probably said that because Dwayne Haskins does not have a winning record as a quarterback. So when you're looking at the 2 options, plus technically Dwayne Haskins is not under contract. The only guy under contract right now that's a quarterback is Mason Rudolph, so of course he's the one that would be the starting quarterback if the season were to start right now.
That makes sense.
But there's a major backlash of this, of Steelers fans just spewing hatred towards Mason Rudolph based off of Kevin Colbert saying this, which is just completely ridiculous and unnecessary in my book. Yeah. At no point did Kevin Colbert say, Mason Rudolph's the future. I think he's going to be just as good as Ben Roethlisberger or better. No, he didn't say that. All he did was say he's got confidence in the guy. So I think as a Steelers nation, we need to chill out a little bit here. He didn't say, nope, we're not getting a quarterback in free agency. We're not drafting a quarterback. We're going with a Mason. He didn't say that. They're probably doing both.
There's going to be 3 quarterbacks brought in. Let's be real. They're either at the bare minimum, they're keeping one of the 2 of the free agent quarterbacks that we have that we'll talk about. Or they're going to, if they decide to draft somebody, let's be real, or a veteran, if they decide to bring a veteran in for cheap, I believe there's going to be 3, some combination of 3 players other than Mason Rudolph that will be on the team for the start of preseason. That's my firm belief. I think we're going to have 4.
In every reason, like every single year after year, the 90-man roster has 4 quarterbacks on it. Yep. So him saying that he's going to bring 2 more quarterbacks on and kind of counting Dwayne Haskins in that, because he did mention in this that they would tender an offer to Dwayne Haskins, which everyone expects just because it's the reasonable, rational thing to do. This is not breaking news. It was made to be breaking news, but realistically, you're going to have your rookie mini camps, and in order to have a quarterback for rookie mini camps, you have to have a guy that's a first or second year quarterback. There isn't one on the roster, so either they're going to draft one or they're going to bring in an undrafted guy at least to get them through those camps.
Yeah.
And I don't see them not bringing in a free agent quarterback. Of what caliber, I don't know. I
Marcus
don't
Mariota,
think they're going to trade for somebody.
Russell Wilson, just kidding.
Yeah, it's. I don't think it's going to be anybody that they have to give up large amounts of capital for.
No.
Uh, like I don't even think they'll go after Jimmy G, thinking that they'd have to give up like a third or fourth round pick. I don't think they would do that for him. I don't think he's worth it.
No.
But yeah, I think they'll probably bring in one of those middle of the road guys like a Trubisky who's had a little bit of success. He's had a Pro Bowl season previously, and then they'll bring in another guy too, and it'll be a free for all. You'll have a little bit of a battle, and that's good. Oftentimes, that kind of competition makes guys better.
Yep.
So that's what we need.
Yep. We've talked about that before with the 70s team. It was all about competition for them, friendly competition, and it got them to 4 Super Bowls and winning them. So there's that. Colbert also talked about in this interview Stephon Tuitt a little bit and says that he was open to bringing him back. However, he also said that there's going to have to be more conversations in order for that to potentially happen. I firmly believe it's not happening. I just quite frankly believe that Stephon Tuitt is not there, whether it be mentally or emotionally right now, or some kind of combination of the two, with all the things that he's been struggling with, if that's the correct term you want to use.
Yeah, I think so.
It's I just don't see it very likely. I think that he's kind of taken a step back away from football and realized, hey, life goes on. And I think I'm like, here's the thing. I'm not saying he doesn't love the sport. I'm not saying that at all. But the pain he was in when he lost his brother was more excessive than the joy football brought him. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. I guarantee you he misses his brother more than he misses football.
Yep.
Guaranteed.
And I don't, I
and
understand
no
that.
one, yeah, no one can blame him. No one can blame him for it. You know, if Stephon Tuitt retires, I think if anyone's upset with him, it's a completely selfish reaction. Because what he's been through, like we have said time and time again, we all understand him taking as much time as he needs. I would absolutely love for Stephon Tuitt to come back, and I think Pittsburgh will keep that door open as long as they possibly can for him. Kind of like they did with Ryan Shazier when he was attempting to come back from that short-term paralysis that he went through. They wanted to see, hey, if this guy can somehow complete the miraculous comeback physically and be able to come back, well, then absolutely we got a spot for him. And I think it's the same thing, but mentally here. If Tuitt can somehow make the mental and emotional comeback and come back to playing football and wants to play and he's in it and he's physically capable of going, absolutely you take him back. He's a dominant player when he's healthy. But I think they're going to be looking for answers probably before free agency, because they're going to look to solidify the room through free agency and the NFL draft at the end of April. Because if he's not coming back now, you need to come up with a plan. Yeah. And I don't think that necessarily Chris Wormley is plan A. He's a good plan B. But you probably want something a little bit higher level as far as a plan A.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't agree with you more. You know, with all the things you talked about, with all the things you said, we got to do something, like you said, good plan B. Definitely, I don't think if he turns out to be a plan A, I don't think that's a good thing. Let's just put it that way. So, with that being said, that's going to wrap up this episode for today. We're just talking about the news. Unless you have something else to talk about.
Last thing I wanted to mention real quick, I was listening to a show earlier in the week with Wes Euler of Steelers Nation Radio. You might have heard him doing his shows with Arthur Moats. It's a pretty entertaining show. They're a good time. But one thing that Wes threw out there as his suspicion as to why Pittsburgh has not hired and announced a general manager quite yet. And honestly, I think it's a brilliant idea, and maybe there's some truth behind it because he's pretty well connected to the organization. Then he made sure to put that disclaimer out there saying, this isn't, I know, I'm not saying it's something I know, but he said, if you think about it, if they announce a general manager right now, and let's say it's an in-house candidate, whether it's Robert Hunt or if it's Omar Khan, those are the two leading candidates in-house. Brandon Hunt, I'm sorry, not Robert Hunt, Brandon Hunt. If they were to announce him previous to the draft, and let's say for some reason this turns out to be a really bad draft class and we get no impact and the players are poor performance right out of the gate and they stay that way all season long, people are going to look at it and say, this new general manager stinks. why in the world did they hire this guy?
Yep.
If they don't announce it until after the draft, if it is a bad class, you can blame it on Colbert on his way out and say, well, the new guy is going to be running the show 100% next year. It wasn't his fault. It was Colbert's fault. And Colbert doesn't care. He's got 20 years worth of resume of drafting all pros and Hall of Famers. He's good. He's got a good resume. Sure, he's had some stinkers here and there. But for every stinker, he's got back-to-back seasons of Pouncey and DeCastro. And he's got, his Cam Haywards and TJ Watts winning Defensive Players of the Year. These are all guys he drafted. Clearly, he's a good evaluator of talent and hits way more often than he misses. But if you announce this after, like I said, you can blame it if it's a bad class on the old GM. And if it's a good one, you can say, well, you know what? Our new GM had a lot to do with this class. That's why it was so good.
Yep.
And you can have a really nice, warm introduction into the next guy. So it gives you the good out and the bad out at the same time by waiting to announce it until after the class, which makes it even more look like it's an in-house candidate.
It's only going to be awkward
because that doesn't do you any good if the guy isn't on staff already, then you don't have that out.
Yeah, it's only going to be awkward when it happens because we're going to know. We're going to be like, yep, this was what they were doing.
Yeah. Yep.
This was
We've been saying for like a season and a half that we think Brandon Hunt's going to be the next guy. So yeah. I'm still sticking in that corner. There are some folks that are actually saying they think it might be two. We might see two guys get promoted. Both of them, Omar Khan and Brandon Hunt, both get elevated, both be like co-general managers, share responsibilities with different specialties, that kind of thing, in order to keep them both. Because let's be realistic, what Omar Khan has done with the salary cap for the last 4 or 5 years has just been straight magic. Yeah. How he's kept us under the cap and retained as much talent as he has been very impressive.
Yeah. So that's going to end this episode on the Steelers news. That was all we were covering today. Be looking forward to the next 2 episodes we're going to be posting for you guys. We're going to be talking about the free agency for specifically the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive side of the ball and defensive side of the ball, and talk about how we think or who we think they should keep, who we think they should get rid of, the pros and cons of keeping someone, the pros and cons of not keeping someone. And then we also want your guys' input. So please feel free to reach out to us on social media or message us or email us at steelersbythelake@gmail.com. And we will read your email if you're open to that, talking about who you think they should keep, who you think they should get rid of. Really looking forward to that interaction from you guys. So again, we can't thank you guys enough for listening. Be sure to like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell. And until next time, this is your hosts, James and Cody, signing off.
Peace.